Hey everyone, Michael Chow here. I hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves and taking care of someone else, even if you're apart. I have been eagerly awaiting this chance to talk to you guys about Wild Rift. I'm thrilled to announce we're beginning to roll out our first round of large-scale testing starting next week. Our very first test is a 2-week alpha in Brazil and the Philippines, just on mobile, starting with the folks who pre-registered during League's 10-year anniversary. This is just a first step, but it's a very important one, and we're eager to expand from there because we need your feedback on some really important things. First, and most importantly, we need you to tell us if we've hit our mark for delivering a true League of Legends experience with dual-stick controls. I personally think it's pretty magical, but it doesn't really matter what we think until you get your hands on it and vote with your playtime. Second, we want to know more about how our round game systems are meeting your needs. This is everything outside the match on the Rift itself, from collecting champs and skins to our other metagame systems. And because an important promise of Wild Rift is that you can play it with more of the people you care about, we want to know if our onboarding is going to help your friends find the magic and the fun in League of Legends, so you can play together. Last, we're testing our infrastructure and service capabilities. The game's got to run smooth on your device, lag-free on the network, and free of cheats and cheaters. So check your email if you pre-registered. We're excited to get you into the game. And to prepare for that, we're going to give you a peek at what we're up to with updates from across the team.
Hi everyone, I'm David Xu, the product manager for Champions on Wild Rift. We talked about Champions a while ago, and our philosophy remains simple. We want to retain the feel of your favorite champions so they are authentic to what you know from League, and we only look for changes where it makes sense, like to accommodate Wild Rift's faster game pacing, our slightly smaller map, or to adjust for the dual stick controls. Now you're probably wondering who has made it into the alpha roster, so we put together a little something to show you who made the cut this time around. This lineup is just the start, and there'll be lots more in the near future. Wild Rift features a dual-stick control scheme that we hope feels natural to mobile and console veterans. We have spent a lot of time building on that foundation with a focus on responsiveness and precision. We have invested a ton into targeting, aiming, and some new tech we're not quite ready to show yet. Now with that in mind, let's take a closer look at a few of Wild Rift's champions. For Nasus players, we felt it was critical to maintain his infinite scaling raid boss fantasy in Wild Rift. And to do that, we adjusted the speed at which he gained stacks of Siphoning Strike, to make sure that he can still ascend in the late game. For Twisted Fate, we mentioned a couple months ago that we were polishing up his stacked deck to be more than a passive ability. The new version grants our favorite gambler a burst of attack speed, opening up new potential build paths. Most of Miss Fortune's kit already works great on Wild Rift, but we took the opportunity to change Double Up into a skill shot to accommodate our dual stick controls. And now this also gives the Miss Fortune players more gameplay opportunities. While some champions, it made sense to make some small adjustments. For Janna, she was a perfect example of a champion that has near identical gameplay from PC. For Shyvana, we wanted to push the envelope a little further and really bring out her Dragon Hunter thematic while not adjusting her core gameplay pattern too much. Now, when Shyvana takes a Drake, she gets unique bonuses in Dragon form. For example, killing an Inferno Drake adds some true damage against Scorch enemies. And a Mountain Drake will grant Shyvana a slow on her Twin Bite. So, as you can see, we are keeping the experience pretty close to PC, with a few changes that hopefully better fit our new platforms. We think it will be awesome if you can pick up some of your favorite champions in Wild Rift and immediately start showing off your skills against other players. And now, let's hear more from Jonathan to talk about Wild Rift's core gameplay.
Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Chow and I lead the gameplay and balance team on Wild Rift. We've got a lot to share with you today, so let's get started. Wild Rift's gameplay will look pretty familiar to League players, so we thought we'd start at the same place every League game does. Let's head into Champ Select. Just like on PC, you can select from a range of summoner spells that give you powerful but limited tools to turn the tide of battle. Smite will be a little different, but we'll get into that later. With Wild Rift's rune system, we're looking to bring the meaningful pre-game decision making of runes reforged on PC, but streamlined for shorter game sessions. There are 8 keystone runes to choose from, like Electrocute, Airy, and Conquer. You can then pick 3 minor runes to complement your choice. We added a few new minor runes unique to Wild Rift, like Sweet Tooth, which grants you gold when you eat honey fruit, and Loyalty, which gives you and your lane partner defensive stats when you're close to each other, and this bonus stacks too. You might have figured out some of this already from our previous gameplay clips, but let's talk about some of the features of our map, which is called Wild Rift.
There are 3 lanes in the rift. Pick one and push forward. Defeat the enemy turrets and Nexus to win.
Wild Rift still has all the phases of a League game that you would expect, but shortened to 15 to 20 minutes. From last hitting and trading in the laning phase, to setting up the perfect gank, to fighting over that crucial dragon, to clutch team fights. For junglers, you can now choose whether you want Challenging Smite or Chilling Smite after you finish off 4 major jungle camps. That way you can get straight into ganking as soon as you're ready. You can expect to find many in-game items you'll know from PC, which can only be bought in the fountain. While the number and tuning of items may be different, their purpose is almost identical. For instance, Rabadon's Death Cap is still the go-to item for stacking up your ability power. And Trinity Force still deals tons of damage. We also need feedback on our new Tear of the Goddess item designed for tanks. It's called Fimbulwinter, and it'll grant you a shield when you crowd control someone. Wild Rift also features many familiar active items, but each player can only purchase one. These active effects are now bought as a third tier for boots, and you can mix and match any upgrade with any boot type. Support players might want to pick up the Redemption enchant, and tanks can grab the Stone Plate for extra resistances. Or maybe you'll want to try something that's totally different. We've added a quick buy pop-up for when you really need to get back to lane quickly too. We've built Wild Rift's gameplay with depth and strategy in mind. We want this to be a MOBA that's easy to pick up with friends, with a high ceiling for mastery, so we're hoping the core 5v5 experience lives up to your expectations. Speaking of 5v5, the Regional Alpha also has Co-op vs AI available to practice your skills, a tutorial that covers controls and abilities, and we're looking to add new modes after launch. Alpha players can even test the rank system, which we've designed to retain the core competitive spirit of League, with a few adaptations for new platforms. We'll talk more about this at a later date. That's all from me, now let's talk about skins.
Hi, I'm Christina1, and I'm the product lead for personalization on Wild Rift. Now we know typically when it comes to monetization, mobile games have a lot going against them, with things like business models that force you to pay to play, wait timers, tons of annoying pop-ups. Don't really love that experience, so we're not going to do that. We want to offer you a range of ways in which you can express yourself, whether that's customizing your profile, showing off after you've outplayed someone, or using your favorite skins. So we're committing to following the business model from League PC, meaning you can earn all champions for free and paying is optional. It's not a core part of the game, and it should never feel like you're forced into it. All right, with all that said, let's look at some skins. There are many more skins on the way, and we're really excited to represent your favorite skins in a new way on Wild Rift.
We hope you're excited. We really are. This is still only a taste of what we're up to, but the team is excited to hear your feedback and suggestions. And emotionally stable enough to handle you showering us with your balanced team memes. Thank you all for your support. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you on the Wild Rift.
There it is, a new look at the gameplay of League of Legends Wild Rift. You probably have some questions about this game, and I'm happy now to welcome Brian from the Wild Rift team at Riot. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be here. Super excited to talk about Wild Rift. It's been really looking forward to the moment where players can finally sort of get an in-depth look of the game. So really stoked to be here.
I know. League of Legends, obviously a massive global game. Last year for Riot Anniversary, you announced Wild Rift, which is something that fans of League have been asking for years, having a mobile version of the game. It is also coming. This will be the version that will come to consoles. And, for some people, this may be the first time they're kind of they probably know about League, but are hearing about Wild Rift. So let's maybe rewind back a little bit and talk about sort of philosophically what this game is. And, I know Riot has always viewed this not as let's port League of Legends to mobile, but let's build a new League experience from the ground up with some of the same DNA and champions and gameplay you've come to love. But, as that you said in the video, kind of designed for, the dual sort of stick approach. Can you maybe explain a little bit about like the design philosophy of like where you began and where you've ended up?
Oh, sure. So I think like playing League of Legends on other platforms has been something that like League of Legends players have asked for and wanted for a really long time now, for all sorts of reasons. Whether that's just fits into their lifestyle better, or it's time constraints, or a lot of people just don't even have access to a PC anymore. And so it's something we've always really wanted to support for a really long time. It's just taken us a while to get there. League is a really, really deep, like hardcore strategic PvP game. And so for a long time, we struggled with how do we actually translate that? How do we keep that depth? How do we keep that sort of longevity, that mastery, that really compelling core gameplay onto some of these other platforms? And I think we've finally gotten there with Wild Rift. Obviously, we'd love to sort of get the feedback from players in the alpha as we go. But I think for folks who have always been interested in League, this is going to be like the perfect opportunity to jump in fresh. I've done a lot of stuff to make this really accessible, make it more engaging and stuff for players. If you've never played League, but you've always been interested in the lore, the IP, the esports scene, anything, like now is going to be a perfect opportunity to jump in fresh.
So we know the games are going to be shorter. It's defined for mobile. Can you talk about some of the core design principles about how this differs from a traditional League of Legends game?
Yeah, so from a design philosophy standpoint, there's a couple things. At its core, we really want to make sure the games are shortened to about 15 to 20 minutes on average, whereas on PC, you're looking at about 30 to 35 minutes on average. We want to make sure that it's, something that you can fit in over like a 30-minute lunch break, for example, or if you're like, on the train or on a commute, like you can get a game in, and we think that's really, really cool and compelling. So we really make sure that the game time accommodates the new platforms. So from a design standpoint, it was super critical for all of us on the League team that we maintained the feel and the core gameplay of League of Legends. This means all the things that you're used to, the laning phase, the mid game, the end game, those cool team fights, those sieges, all of that stuff still really had to be there. And I think it's really easy if you're saying, hey, we need to make the games half as short, you just cut the back end of the game off. As an example. That's something we really, really wanted to avoid. And so instead of trying to target and sort of remove phases, we want to try to preserve as much as we possibly can, just kind of push each individual component onto a shorter and tighter timeline. So something like the laning phase is only going to last about 3 to 5 minutes, whereas it might last more like 5 to 8 minutes on League PC.
Wow. And, even champions, you've had to make some changes to some of their gameplay. I mean, everyone that plays League knows there's obviously, there's a lot going on with, mouse and keyboard and how people are playing those champions. So, you have some of the same champions we saw in the video. A lot of them are moving over to Wild Rift, but you're slightly tweaking some of the gameplay, right?
Yes, yeah. So the biggest change that folks will feel immediately is just the controls change, right? Playing on a mouse and keyboard is just fundamentally different than playing on a phone or on a controller, right? And so we've really had to do a number of changes to really kind of tweak and optimize these characters to get all the really cool moments, all the really cool combos, all the really cool kind of outplays and highlight moments that you would expect on a mouse and keyboard setup onto that twin stick control scheme. So I think hopefully, and we'll see how folks respond to the alpha, the vast majority of the changes that we've made actually shouldn't even be felt by players, right? Because it's actually trying to capture that same feel. There are definitely some feelable changes, and we can go into those on kind of a character-by-character basis. We'll have a lot of those infos that we've already talked about, and we'll continue to talk about those in the future. But really, we're hoping that most of the changes are actually unnoticed, and that players who are familiar with the game can pick it up and jump straight in and just immediately start having fun.
Right, and I'm sure the balance is like creating something that existing players, feel fits in with the play style that they've learned and built with League, but then also inviting to all these other players that haven't maybe played League or want to learn how to play League or have more time to play League now that they can play it on the go.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned controllers, and I was curious about the console version, which we know is in development. We were talking before, and you said you're working on it now. We know mobile is kind of the focus this year, and console will come down the road. But is console being developed kind of in stream with the mobile version? Does it come later? Can you maybe talk a bit about that?
So I'm not going to go into too much detail on console. Obviously, mobile is going to be first, and console will be later. But obviously, we have teams working on all the platforms that we're aiming to support, and so obviously, it is still in development. It's still working on it. It's coming along well, but we're just not ready to release any kind of timeline on that kind of stuff yet.
Yep, but it is obviously because you talked about sort of twin sticks and controllers, and the idea of the control scheme is much more similar, obviously, on console to mobile than to PC.
Oh, right. And even from day one on this project, when I started a couple of years ago now, all of our control specs, even on the very first version of the mobile build, we were designing it for controller and touchscreen as well. It's just been designed to really support all the platforms from
right. And some people, I'm sure, will probably play this with a controller on their phone too, if they want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I don't have the distance of which peripherals will support or not yet, but yeah, it's absolutely meant to be functional at any kind of controller.
I was gonna say, I feel people will Bluetooth in somehow or find some way to optimize for the most competitive game. And I mean, on PC, everyone split seconds count, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people trying to learn the best way to play this on mobile. You've been working on League for a long time at Riot, I think close to a decade, right? Of sort of building this across all these platforms. What excites you and the team the most about this version? Is it the idea that it'll be more accessible to more people? Is it that players, as you said, lifestyle-wise, that they're going to be able to be a part of League more often? What's driving you? What's exciting to you?
So I think there's a couple things. I think if I sort of boil it down to two main points that are really exciting, I think for the first one is this is just a version of League of Legends that a lot of players, both on the dev team and players that I've personally interacted with and talked with for years now, even since I started, they just can't fit League into their current lifestyle for any kind of thing, but they really, really, really want to play. And I think Wild Rift is the perfect opportunity to really scratch that itch, kind of go back, pick up your favorite champion and have an amazing game experience that we wouldn't be able to do in any other way. And then the second thing is, and this one, I didn't initially jump in having this level of sort of attachment to, but the more I've done it, the more I've realized how critically important this is, which is basically the social play component. Mobile in particular is a phenomenal platform for social play. There's nothing quite like sort of having a LAN party in your pocket and just sitting down at a table over dinner and playing with 3 to 4 different friends, right? Something along those lines. It's really magical, and we really want to make sure that we support and encourage that level of play because there's really nothing else like it, and this is a really unique opportunity for players.
And how will it work with progression? Obviously there'll be console, there'll be mobile, PC. You'll have the same account across everything, or how will that work in terms of how players kind of enter this community and obviously want to bring over a lot of your friends from PC? How is that all going to work?
So there's sort of two components to that. The first one is obviously we're open to crossplay, and we think that would be a really cool opportunity. But we're not quite ready to announce sort of what will work and how will work yet. But the core gameplay for all the platforms will functionally be the same. So if nothing else, you'll be able to pick up and sort of your skills should transfer, all the stuff. It will be very, very familiar. We're not doing drastically different versions for different platforms. Yep. On the other side, obviously, we are going to be basically giving sort of a big booster thank you present for folks who, if you have invested time in League PC previously, there will be an option to sort of link your accounts, and we'll give you some good stuff and sort of a head start to get yourself in.
Oh, cool.
But we definitely also want to make sure that we're being just generally very generous in terms of how easy it is to acquire champions, what's the barrier of entry, how easy it is to jump in and just really start playing. We want to make supportive for both new players and for veteran players.
And are you seeing a scenario where on the champion side, it'll be a subset always of the PC game, or will you have unique champions that will exist just in Wild Rift down the road?
So it's definitely possible. We don't have any current plans for that, but I definitely wouldn't leave it off the table. I think there are a lot of things. It's a very unique opportunity to sort of design something for the twin stick control scheme from the ground up. So we're definitely open to doing that. However, right now there's 140 something champions on League PC, and so we've got about 36 in the alpha. So. And we're definitely not going to get all 140, but there's a large backlog of champions that we know that we really want to bring over and make sure that we support as many players as possible to bring their mains over. Even if
that's part of the thing in the video. I mean, always a debate about which champions will be in this, and those I'm sure are the throwdown meetings or video conferences now about making the list, right, and selecting. How do you go about picking those? I mean, part of it is, I'm sure, balance and diversity, but how did you go about picking the 36 that you're kind of leading with?
So there's a number of things. So first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that at a core layer, we had enough distribution across roles, across play styles, across gameplay types. So we just don't overload a particular position or a particular type of play. The second one on there is really for control scheme. So we wanted to make sure we initially brought over a couple champions that we thought would really work well on twin stick controls. And so it's like, okay, let's just get some real solid wins. Can this work, right? And we sort of tested that. And so those were some of the first champions we brought over. Sort of the second wave was actually a series of champions that we thought would be really, really hard. Slash, we weren't even sure if we could do it, even on the twin stick controls. Like, could you still pull off some of the same sick plays that you can on mouse and keyboard for some of these really high skill cap champions like Yasuo or Zed? And so we really kind of pushed our boundaries and brought some of those folks over, and we got most of them to work really well. So that's kind of how we started and how we kind of finished, and then now we're kind of in a cool middle ground where we have a little bit more freedom and flexibility of who we bring over.
Yep, and lots of feedback from the players. As folks heard in the video, this is really a reveal of more of the gameplay, and then starting very soon, next week in Brazil and Philippines, you'll start testing with kind of a small number of players, and so a lot of people watch this video and want to get in, and right now the message is just wait, right? I mean, you're going to slowly kind of ramp more people in across the year.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't let everybody in right now, especially for here. Obviously, we're trying to test the core gameplay. We're trying to test a lot of the core initial fields, but we're also really trying to test like server stability and infrastructure as well. And so for that, we really make sure that we have a really like narrow focus test to make sure that we can really deliver on all these things so that when we do bring in more folks, things go smoothly. We're not dealing with a lot of like network latency, packet loss, a lot of those kind of issues. We can also iron out a lot of the mobile specific issues as well that we really care a lot about. Like data usage is huge for us. Same with like battery life and that kind of stuff. And so we really make sure that we get our experimentation done early before we bring in, thousands of players.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of content creators in those markets that people around the world will be watching as they get to play around with it over the next few weeks and experiment. So you're still on track for, I think you said 2020 at some point. The goal is still to get it out to everybody? Yeah,
we haven't announced a formal release date, but we're still running on track, and it's definitely still the goal, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks great and such a huge opportunity. League is really, I think, one of the biggest games in the world in terms of the number of people that play it. And PC is a massive market, but I think the fact that this is coming to mobile and console, and you have taken your time to build a new, different experience, but with the DNA of League is fantastic. And some of the pre-registration numbers that I've seen on this on mobile certainly suggest there's huge global interest in this. And even mobile games, I think people sometimes look at them and say, hey, how do these fit into the industry? And they're massive. And I think you and the team, a lot of folks that worked on the PC game obviously moved over to mobile, and it looks phenomenal. I mean, the phones are so powerful now, and this all rolling into console is really exciting as well. So I'm sure there's lots more to do, but impressive you guys are doing your tech test from a work from home situation. So we'll be watching the streams next week, and can't wait to see what's next for Wild Rift. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Really looking forward to folks' feedback, and thanks for having me.
Yes, we'll see you soon.